Greetings, folks. Joseph Kursky here with you to explore a current event, wildfires, and specifically the Smokehouse Creek wildfire in the panhandle of Texas. This is an example of using a current event to teach about spatial thinking and to use geotechnologies. In the Living Atlas apps, the ArcGIS Living Atlas of the world, there are apps. One of them is called the Wildfire Aware. As you saw, I selected the Wildfire Aware app, and now I'm investigating the ecoregion, the population, the critical habitat, and other aspects of our cultural or human-built world, and also the natural world. Just looking at the Smokehouse Creek wildfire right now, March 2024, you can see the extent is almost across the whole panhandle of Texas. How big is it? You've got measure tools at your fingertips, and you've got different measurement units at your fingertips as well. You can look at the satellite imagery behind the extent of the wildfire and other wildfires in the area. Consider using this as part of your weekly instruction. What hazards are happening right now? In the case of wildfires, I oftentimes like to have students look at, hey, what does it look like? Street view. If you've got a street view available, what does it look like actually on the ground? You can see here there's some shrubs, there's some trees, there's a lot of grassland. What does it look like in towns and communities in the area affected? There's some trees there. You can see the commercial, industrial, and residential buildings in those towns affected. So the point is that these events are affecting real people and real lives. Also take a look at some of the news stories with before and after imagery, satellite imagery, and read stories of people impacted. That's always a helpful thing to do as well. So we started with the Wildfire Aware app. Like all apps, it's very powerful, no sign-in required. And this next level, let's go into ArcGIS Online. Without signing in, there's a lot of powerful things you can do. With signing in, you can save your maps, have your students share the maps with others, with you as their instructor, with their peers, and to put that in a story map, a portfolio that you can assess and they can present from. But even in ArcGIS Online, there are lots of powerful things you can do here that dig a little deeper than the Wildfire Aware app. Both are helpful in education, but here in the ArcGIS Online map viewer, you also have an area calculator, as well as a lot of other things that we'll explore ever so briefly. When we look at the area, we've got a lot of different units at our fingertips, hectares, acres, etc. If we click on the Smokehouse Creek incident, we see that's just over 1 million acres sadly burned right now. And if we change our measurement to acres, we can see that even my crude polygon that I got here is just over 1 million acres. We can also see the land use, land cover. You can see the crop circles from center pivot irrigation, north and south of this wildfire. It looks like this wildfire is mostly on prairie, but let's take a look at the population to see what kind of population we're talking about here in this area that is potentially impacted in the area, but also air quality downwind, right, is a huge issue here. So we're looking at now the human footprint layer. I just went to ArcGIS Online, as you saw, and I added that. Now I can see that, okay, it confirms my hypothesis that the human footprint in the wildfire area, thankfully, is not as high as in surrounding areas, but still, there's a community, as we'll investigate, well, we just investigated it with the street view, is right in the path. We can look at county-level variables. We can look at census tract level variables. We can also look at regional variables. Here, let's take a look at census tracts. I'm going to change the field that I'm mapping to total population. There's lots of other variables in the ACS, American Community Survey of the U.S. Census data that's at your fingertips. And I'm going to change it to population. You can see I've got a bar chart, a pie graph, and lots of other things at my fingertips here, where I can see not just the total population, but the vulnerable population, over 65, and little kids as well. I can change the symbology so I get a better sense. I can make that population layer transparent so it confirms my hypothesis. Amarillo, and there's a community out to the northeast that are close to the wildfire, not actually in the wildfire perimeter, thankfully, at this point. But I'm going to change that back to a counts and amount size, a graduated symbol map. If I don't like that symbol, I can change it. I can change the color. I can change the symbol itself. I can also classify the data as I'm doing right here. Equal interval is not what I want. Maybe I'm going to go with standard deviation or quantile. Let's go with quantile and see what that looks like. I can also, because I've got the human footprint there, I don't really like that red symbol. It's a bit hard to see, so let's make it yellowish. I'm going to make it yellowish. Again, there's no rules here as in terms of cartography. There are lots of guidelines, but it's exploring like I am doing here and encouraging your students to do that. So let's see what the human impact is potentially from that wildfire. So we're looking at the population density there. Now I'm going to look up, what about the biomes in this area? I've got a sense, because I've been to Texas Tech University and some other places there. I've been there. I know what that area is like. But perhaps your students are halfway around the world, or even in another part of Texas or in Oklahoma, and they've never actually been there. They don't know what it looks like, aside from the street views. So let's take a look at the ecoregions. You've got a lot of layers at your fingertips. Biomes, we looked at a moment ago. Now we're looking at ecoregions, the North American ecoregions. That's a rich set of data. So I can see here at this scale, okay, that's part of the Great Plains, no surprise. It's the Llano Estacado is what it is, the southern Great Plains. If we zoom in, we're going to get some level 2. I'm not looking at the highest level ecoregion right now. Again, more is not always better in a GIS, but I can see hills, grassland, warm, temperate, dry, climate. So I can see what it looks like there, and also north and south. Hills, grassland. Okay, so I can see the different parts of the ecoregion in this area. Population, the biomes, the ecoregion, the river systems, which we're not paying attention to right now, but what are the rivers in this area? What's the groundwater like? What's the population base? We've looked at a little bit. So we started with the Wildfire Aware app. Very powerful, lots of information at your fingertips. And when we ended with going into ArcGIS Online Map Viewer. And again, I encourage you to look at issues like this. They're important to look at spatially through the lens of spatial thinking and geographic information systems. And all best wishes to those impacted by this very serious incident. Take care.